get everyone checked in here. And so I'm just going to go based off the orientation of my screen. As I call your name, if you could do me a favor, if you could unmute yourself after I call your name and confirm if you do have a name on the screen that the name is correct. If not, or if it's only a first name, if you could give me your full name. And then if you could tell me who you're representing here today. So if you're a part of the project, a adjacent property owner, or someone else. So I'll start again with the orientation on my screen here. I have Steven's iPhone.
Hello, this is Stephen Fiegels. I'm the builder at Urban 20 Garden Place with Equal Custom Homes.
Okay. And could you, Stephen, could you please spell your last name for me?
Sure, it's Fiegels, F as in Frank, E-A-G-L-E-S as in Sam.
Got it. Okay, thanks. And so you are the builder on the project, correct?
I am, yes.
Okay, all right, welcome.
Thank you.
I have a Gwen Davis.
Hi, I'm Gwen Davis, and I'm owner of one of the houses on Hewitt Crescent.
Okay, great. Welcome, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
All right, I have a Wing Tech Revel V Plus. Looks like a woman sort of looking down at the screen right now. Wing Tech, I'm asking you to unmute if you can hear me. Okay, we'll move on. I have an Mini Puri, Ashok Mini Puri.
Hi, I'm Ashok Manipuri. I represent CSA Civil Solutions. We are the design build contractor for the wall.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like we have unmuted the Wing Tech Revel account there. Ma'am, if you could, looking down at the screen right now with the glasses, if you could.
Me?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, could you give me your full name, please?
Jean Hall.
Jean Hall. Okay, is that Jean?
Yes.
Okay.
A resident at 3306 Hewitt Crescent.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. I have Katie Reichert.
Yep, Katie Riker. I'm with Civil Solutions.
Come on.
All right. Oh, sorry. I'm going to throw everybody on mute just for a minute. Civil Solutions, is that right?
Yes, we're working with Eagle Custom Homes on the wall.
Okay, great. Welcome. All right. I have Richard Ritz.
That's correct, and I'm also with Civil Solutions.
Okay. Welcome. I have a Mary Hall.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm owner of property on Hewitt Crescent.
Okay. Ms. Hall, do you intend on providing any testimony here today?
Sure.
Okay. I just ask if you could turn on another light or put some light
Okay.
so that
I'll
I
get
can
some
see,
lights on.
just so I can see a little bit better as you provide that testimony. Thanks. All right. I have Terry Rath.
Yeah.
Yes, that is better. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Terry Rath.
Yes, I'm the immediate neighbor.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. And a Lisa M. If you could unmute for me. Yeah, Lisa, you're still muted, so can't hear anything you're saying at the moment.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Okay, Lisa Randolph, R-A-N as in Nancy, D as in David, O-L-P as in Paul, H as in Harry. I am a resident. My address is 3330 Hewitt Crescent.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and then I have someone under Mulligan's iPhone.
Terrence McCarthy. I'm a resident on Hewitt Crescent Street.
Okay. Welcome.
Thanks.
All right. And then we have Geneva Miller.
Yes, hi. Geneva Miller, Miller, and I'm an owner of 3314 Hewitt Crescent.
All right, great. I think that's everyone except for Cassandra. Can you hear us in there?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
I have it written. A resident at 3318 Evanston Avenue.
Can you move any closer to the microphone?
Written 3318 Evanston Avenue.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry, could you tell me your first and last name one more time?
Heather Britton.
Heather Britton. Is it Britton?
EN.
Ian. Okay. Great. Welcome. All right. Let's see. On the applicant side from Civil Solutions, are we expecting anyone else to join us here as a part of the applicant team or the owners?
No, this is everyone.
Okay, great. Fantastic. All right. So now that we have everyone checked in, I'm going to go ahead and read through our hearing script. This will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we will jump into it. So this is the December 6th, 2023 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the City of Cincinnati. I'll preside over the hearing today. The case before us today is case number ZH20230166. That is 20 Garden Place. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any potential opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing, unless someone has submitted testimony in the form of writing or submitted an email or other written correspondence in the form of writing. That will also be a part of the record. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. The public will then have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. Let's see, looks like we do have one other person here from the zoning department, Trey Sheldon. Trey Sheldon will have an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report after the public has had an opportunity to speak. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will then have an opportunity to respond to any of that testimony that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. So for our purposes here today, I will give Mr. Fiegels, Mr. Minipuri, Ms. Reichert, and Mr. Ritz. I'll give you all an opportunity to tell us about this project, any background you think is necessary, what exactly it is that you're requesting, the relief that you're requesting, and then of course, why you think that relief is appropriate for this project. One or all of you can speak. However you all want to orient your presentation is completely up to you. I'm pretty liberal about how you want to do that. So again, I'll turn it over to you to start. After you all are finished, I will turn it over to the public. I'll allow each member of the public that would like to provide some testimony about this or a position about this particular application. I will then move on to Trey from the city zoning department to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. I'll have some questions along the way. I'll then go back to the applicants. The applicants can respond to anything that they've heard from anyone and make any closing statements. And then we will we'll wrap it up. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay. Let's see. I think that is it. So if I could have everyone on the applicant team, if you could go off mute for a minute, I'm going to swear all of you in collectively. I'll have to eventually swear everyone in that wants to provide any testimony, but I'm just going to do the applicant team right now. So everyone who's a part of the applicant team or the builder who intends on providing any testimony, if you could please unmute now, raise your right hand. I need you to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So who's going to be taking the lead here on the presentation from the applicant?
I think I'll start off here and just tell you a little bit about the project and what we're looking for and the reasons why. And then I will pass all the technical questions over to Katie, and she handles that side of it. So just to remind yourself, my name is Stephen Fiegels. I represent the homeowner and I'm the builder here at 20 Garden Place. And the main reason for this wall, the retaining wall, is really for safety for their children and to have an area for them to play in at the rear of the house. So right now where the house stands, there's a pretty, I wouldn't say steep drop off, but it's definitely making sure that they have a safe area to play in the future. After they move in, they would like to put a trampoline and also a play set there. So, and we want to make sure that the 3 young children are playing and there's, plenty of safe space for them to play. So that's really the quick and short of it. And, from my end, if you have any technical questions, we can pass along to the other part of our team here and keep moving for that.
Sure. But before we do that, I'd like to do a little bit of table setting. After that statement, just to, and I'm gonna ask the zoning department, zoning plans examiner Trey Sheldon. Trey, very quickly, what exactly is the relief that the applicant is requesting today, and what is the standard? If you could do that for us.
So that everybody understands, measurements in the hillside are done cumulatively. Excavation and fill is done cumulatively. So for example, if this house had been built long ago, 1920 or something, we would only be looking at the cumulative excavation and fill of this project. But because it's an ongoing project with the house, I have to take in the full cumulative excavation and fill from the front of the house to the lowest point for this wall. So that explains the total 24 feet.
So Trey, what is the standard in the hillside overlay district where this house is? What is the standard for the amount of cumulative excavation and fill that is allowed?
Right. The standard for both retaining wall height and for cumulative excavation and fill is a maximum of 8 feet.
A maximum of 8 feet. And how much cumulatively is the applicant requesting for this project?
Cumulatively, a total of 24 feet from the bottom of this retaining wall, from the trench that is required for the base of the retaining wall, subterranean, all the way to up by the front entrance, up near the driveway, the grade up by the driveway at the front of the house.
Gotcha. So 8 feet is 8 feet is allowed. 24 feet is what they're requesting.
24 feet is what they're requesting total for a total of approximately 16 feet of relief. That is correct.
Okay, great. Thanks, Trey. And of course, when it's your time to testify, I'll let you get into some more of the technical details.
Certainly.
So Stephen, you're asking for sounds like an additional approximately 16 feet of excavation and fill here. Is that just to flatten out the backyard so that there's a flat play area for the family?
That is correct. Yes, it's the way that the hill is where we have right now. It's like Katie could jump in to tell you the exact footage from the house to where the existing hillside is and into where the new proposed, just to have more flat, safe area for the children.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Ms. Reichert. Ms. Reichert, what would you like to tell us?
Yes, I can give you guys some more information about the retaining wall. As Stephen mentioned, the proposed retaining wall is behind the residence in the backyard. It's located about 60 feet from the back door of the house. The wall
Ms.
is
Riker, oh, sorry, I hate to interrupt. I see that you're looking at something. Are you looking at maps, or do you have any drawings of this that you could potentially share with the rest of the group so that everyone can see? Or I also have the drawings that were submitted, but I think it's easier if the person that's talking does it. Thank you very much.
Can you guys see that now?
We can, yes.
Okay. So the wall is 165 feet long. It is the shaded red line that goes in the backyard. As you can see, the purpose of the wall is to support this proposed play area. As Stephen mentioned, they wanted to put in a little play set, possibly a trampoline, and then possibly down the line, maybe put in an in-ground pool. So the purpose of the retaining wall is to support these future developments. And as Stephen said, just give the children a safe place to play. The wall is 165 feet long. The maximum exposed height is 6 feet. There are an additional 4 feet buried, giving the total height of 10 feet. I can show this cross section if you guys can see this. So this is the back of the house level, the proposed pool space right out of the walkout, and then the proposed retaining wall.
Gotcha. So the dotted line there that's sort of diagonal across the page there, yeah, is that the existing topography of the property?
That was the topography before the construction of the house. So this house is in place now, and the bottom elevation is shown right around 718. And so this material has already been removed with the construction of the house. The variance that we're requesting now is just for the construction of the retaining wall.
Gotcha. Okay. And so the area to the left of the retaining wall and the right of the house, is that all going to be removed and flattened?
This material right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this has been already removed for the basement excavation and the house construction.
Gotcha. Okay. So
this area is what it looks, this slope is what it is now, and then this will be filled in to create this flat space.
Okay, got it. All right. And will there be excavation as a part of that as well? Or...
The only excavation that will take place for the wall construction is for the footing of the retaining wall. And so we will excavate a trench, as Trey mentioned. We'll just have a single trench that goes across the wall alignment. They'll compact gravel in the trench and then place the first block. So there are no excavations proposed down slope of the wall. There is no mass grading. There's no tree removal. The main excavation will just be for the footing of the retaining wall.
Got it. Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions I had now, and I'm sorry that sorry if I interrupted you there, but did you want to provide some additional testimony about the project?
That is the gist of our wall. As I mentioned, there's no tree removal planned. The wall is completely contained to this property. It simply just extends in the backyard. The only disturbed area will be for the foundation of the wall. And then once the wall is in place, any disturbed area will be fully vegetated. There will be some shrubs and bushes beneath the wall, and then the area above the wall will get just a grass, the backyard grass. So that is the extent of the project.
Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, I think that's all the questions I have now. Anything else you want to say before I move on to Mr. Ritz?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Ritz, anything you want to add?
The only thing I'll add is, I mean, I guess there's grading that's already taking place from the front door around the edge of the house to get to the backyard to account for this 24 feet, which is, I guess, a 16-foot variance, is what's being requested. So it's not like any wall or cliff or anything like that from the project, even though the variance sounds like that's what's being requested. It's graded around the house, so it loses that elevation from the front door to the bottom of the wall.
So this won't create any vertical slopes or cliff-like features on the property?
Nothing more than an elevation of 6 feet from the top of the wall to the bottom of the wall after it's been backfilled on the downslope side.
Gotcha. Okay, so the total height of the wall
Is
will
6
be
feet exposed.
6 feet. What's the total distance of the wall?
The wall is 165 feet long.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Ritz?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right. Unless there's anything else from anyone on the builder or engineer side, I think we can move on to the public.
I think I wanted to add something just to make, so 6 feet is the highest point on the wall, but it tapers down when you go around the house too. So you go from 0, then it slowly goes down to that 6 feet, and then back or up to 0 again. So that's just to point that out as far as the wall goes, if I'm correct.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. All right. I think I will move on to the public. Again, I'm just going to sort of go off the orientation of my screen here. So I'm going to start with Ms. Davis, and after that, we'll go to Jean Hall.
Hi, I just have a couple of questions to ask. First of all, how would that affect our property on Hewitt Crescent? And how would that impact our sewer systems on Hewitt Crescent? Because we're having problems right now with the sewer system on Hewitt Crescent. So I'm just asking how it would affect our property and sewer.
I'll go ahead and let the applicant team respond to those questions directly as we go, since we have so many people.
Katie, do you want to take that?
It will not have impact to the sewer system on Hewitt Crescent. None of the area is going to be exposed. After the wall is in place, everything will be fully vegetated. And so there should be no impact to the sewer system on Hewitt Crescent.
If I'm not mistaken, too, everything drains down to this lower level. If you can see a topography map here, we kind of all sit on a hillside around here, and everything drains down to the bottom over there. So right now, there shouldn't be any sewer issue that we know of. That's all I can say. Obviously, the wall's not going to affect the sewer, anything like that.
Okay. Ms. Davis, did you have any other questions or any other?
Just one more, because I heard them say eventually it would be a swimming pool put in. And my concern still is the overland flooding, water, where would this water go? And that's my concern, even if a pool is put in eventually.
Well, can I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when it comes to a pool, future pool, and that's undecided right now. This is a LEED house. If you're unfamiliar with that, LEED is the energy efficiency house. So if it all depends on when the house is finalized, and if there's essentially points to be able to capture that. I know a pool is not energy efficiency, but it's just future-proofing the house down the road here. But as far as how the pools are constructed, I know that there's essentially like a bathtub and overflow, essentially. So if the water fills up the pool, it doesn't just all flood over at once. It goes down into the storm drains and then out to the, however the city of Cincinnati sewer works, like that.
Okay. Next, I'll move on to Jean Hall, followed by Mary Hall. Jean Hall. We'll need you to unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to be in this meeting today. I have several questions to ask. For the last 7 years, since we had the 2000 August 16 flood, 2016, Hewitt Crescent has been having a lot of erosion. There are busted pipes throughout Evanston. All the manholes that carries the water that runs from Wanted Hill School, and I mean like 7 to 10 blocks away from here, all the water comes to our backyards and the manholes are busted. I complained to MSD. They came and they fixed every manhole that's outside of the Evanston property line. They did not repair any manholes on Evanston, meaning directly few feet away from our homes. However, this has caused our street to have flooding issues. We only have one drain that every inch of the street ties into. Because of that, there's flooding in people's houses, there's gassy sewage smells. There is also a lot of overland flooding, a lot of runoff, fire hydrants of water coming from the far back off the High Park hillside, this 08 zone. So therefore, all the rain overland flooding runs right down here. It is causing houses to slide, lean. The city has not done nothing yet. We've been fighting on the street for 7 years to get help and get these pipes repaired in Evanston. We have not succeeded yet. We're not going to give up. So with that being said, the hillside, I met the owner. I've been back there several times while they were doing the development. I spoke to several men up there in charge. I let them know what's going on with his hillside. Your hillside is also sliding. And that makes me understand why you all want a retaining wall. Also, if you want a retaining wall, I was told that you may have to fill it up with dirt, that you were going to fill it up with dirt from street level or up level to your house, maybe a little slope. But I was told that you all were filling that area all up with dirt and adding a retaining wall because of the safety, not when you say it's a safety for the children, the safety for the children or safety for the property. Because I lived over here 52 years. This is the safest place in Cincinnati. And with you all putting that retaining wall, you must put a retaining wall. All the dirt that sits back there, we tie into your backyard. I can walk across from my backyard straight over to your backyard. Okay? So when you put this retaining wall, is it to just benefit your house and land from sliding? You know, because they know, or I'm quite sure the developers know or have checked out the pipe system over here. You know, the pipes are busted. The land has had so much erosion going on. We're fighting for the last 7 years to save our homes. You know, I know you're new. I welcome you to the neighborhood. I'm glad to see this beautiful, you know, everything going on. But what about the increasing of the runoff? What is your future plan? I know about the safety wall to not just protect you from danger from society around you. You know, your retaining wall is to prevent you from having slippage like we all are having. My retaining wall stood 4 feet probably 8 feet to 12 feet, 15 feet from our foundation. All my retaining wall has crumbled up. This retaining wall was developed about 35 years ago. And the whole retaining wall, the whole hillside is coming your way. It's coming your way. And the houses, I see the houses that's closer to you than me, they've already sliding. They lost so much of their backyards. I grew up and played in every backyard back here. You know, we need to know, like, what and why would you need us for this meeting? Like, if this is your acres of land, you need what? Is it that you need several more inches for the zoning code? Like, we need help too. And I'm, like I said, I'm the first to welcome you here. You know what I'm saying? But we're not trying to lose our property. We're fighting to stay in our homes and fix up the pipe system, because no one deserves to have to live with raw sewage smell. And this raw sewage smell is not just affecting Hewitt Crescent. You got Reverend Mingo, you got sisters and brothers on streets after streets from here, all the way up to Wanda Hill School, cannot get rid of the sewage smell. They've repaired pipes on their property, but outside of their property, the whole entire Evanston has busted pipes underground. So you can't get rid of this street because we tie in. You know, understand what I'm saying? We're not giving up our homes. We're going to keep fighting to stay in our homes and get the sewer system fixed. And I know with you all moving up there doing the development, you got all new sewer systems. You might probably are tied in to the 08 sewer lines that was all replaced when I complained. I complained, they repaired everyone back there for all of 08 zone. So are you having us into this meeting because are you coming into the 07 zone? Or will it, I mean, I already know it's going to affect us, the development, the digging. Because in 2005, 3 houses away from me, the opposite way of where you're living, there's a school. And they developed that, redid that whole football field that connects to us, our backyards with yours. That whole hillside just slipped away since 05. My neighbor's house, her backyard washed away all the way up to their house. So when she lost her home, a gentleman bought the house. When he seen that the whole hillside washed away to his house, he sold the house. They just flipped this house. And now that the new family just moved in, they didn't know that they had any problems, but they didn't know that their backyards were shortened. A lot of neighbors on the street now that are new don't even know what their backyards used to look like. So I think I said enough. I welcome you to the family. I mean, to our family. We're a neighborhood family. And I asked the owner when I met him, would you be interested in getting a swimming pool so I can be your favorite neighbor? I'll come up here and swim, you know. But I welcome you all to the neighborhood. If you all could do anything to, you know, we asked you all for dirt in the beginning. And because we really have no help with the city, we didn't know where you all should put the dirt. So we didn't miss out on the dirt. We're trying to get our backyards, pipes fixed, retaining walls put back up. Now, we won't need a retaining wall if they repair these pipes like they did around the corner at Alson's Park. The pipes were making the other houses doing the same thing what's going on over here. This is less than 1,000 feet away from us. So they repair all those new pipes. They took manholes and stacked about 4 or 5 on top of one another, because throughout these years, this house is over 100 years old, or just about. The pipes over here have not been replaced in 200 years. 200 years they were put in. So we just, you know, welcome you to the neighborhood. Hopefully we all can work together and have peace and joy in our homes. And I will be the first to come and swim in your pool. But thank you, and thank you for having us all in a meeting with you. If you can answer any of the concerns we have, we appreciate it. I know I said a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Thank you, Ms. Hall. I appreciate that
you're
testimony
welcome.
and that perspective. I will, in terms of why everyone was notified of this hearing, that all
Mhm.
is generated from our office here in the city law department and the office of administrative boards. We are required under the zoning code to notify every neighbor that is living within a certain proximity of the subject property. And so we proactively make sure that as these projects are being proposed, that everyone in the neighborhood is aware of what is happening and has an opportunity like this to come and ask questions, voice support or opposition. And so that's why everyone was notified, and that's why you're here today.
Mhm.
I'm not
They
even sure
didn't.
to what extent the applicant even knows who's going to be here before or knew that anyone was going to be here before. They can speak to that directly, but that's just sort of just generally how that happens. I was going to
Okay.
I would like to turn it over to the applicants though to respond to some more of your
Okay.
questions regarding water runoff, impact to hillside, and how, if at all, this project will impact their properties and in particular their backyards.
It's the digging. Once you open it up, it's gonna cause a more problem. And we were never even notified that they were even developing up there. You know, we used to play at the house before. I had friends that lived there. And they property line is, or they zoning code is 08, right? The very last house on the street, was tore down and bought by the people who the land he just purchased from. So they had bought a house that was 3350 Hewitt Crescent. They bought that house, tore it down, the very last house on the street, and that is zone 08, but it's actually on our street. But they changed that zone to 08.
Okay. Let me give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any of your concerns and your questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'll jump in here. I appreciate you jumping on the call here. I guess I'll start with the last part of your question, or how things are zoned over here. When I jumped into the project here, I was, I believe the previous house that was on this development had already taken a hold of that property that was on Hewitt. So that was already tore down before we even, did anything over here. So we had no hand in that. So that's all I can say for that. Forgive me, there was a lot to remember as far as everything else goes.
Mr. Feagles, how is this project going to impact their properties? I mean, I think that's the simplest way to put it. I think that there's a belief, or maybe a worry that this project is going to directly impact their hillside and is going to exacerbate or continue some of the problems they've had with water runoff. So if you or one of the civil engineers can address that directly, I think that would be the best way to proceed.
I can take that one. If I can share my screen. Can everyone see my screen now?
It's transitioning for me right now. Yes, I can see the topography map.
So this is Hewitt Crescent right here, and you were mentioning Evanston Ave. So these properties all here, the drainage pattern is in this direction until it gets to this swale right here. The property that that the applicant right here has is this property right here. So the property line goes right down the center of the ditch along the rear of your guys' property. And then the house actually sits up here closer to the roadway. So in theory, there is no impact from runoff from you guys, because all the water actually goes down to this property line and then flows down the property line here. also to mention the retaining wall that's being suggested to be put in isn't changing the drainage pattern in any other direction. It's still catching the same amount of rain, and it's with that being said, it's not changing the impact because it's not a hard surface, so there's not additional runoff. It's still absorbing the same amount of rain, whether it was a slope or not, to address the rain comment or the storm sewers. And then I've got an additional one here kind of showing a little bit better. This is the property line that you can see kind of overlaid on Google Earth with the house right here. And the retaining wall that Katie had shown on the drawings will wrap around basically just here around the edge of the dirt to help soften the slope above the wall, but the same amount of runoff, whether the wall is put in place or not, is going to be the same amount no matter what. So really, as far as runoff, there is zero impact on an increase of runoff or a decrease of runoff. So I hope that helps answer your question. And if maybe that creates any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Can I say something? Oh.
Yeah. One more question, but I want to give everyone else an opportunity to provide some input as well.
Okay.
So go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying for us, Rich, I believe, like I say, your water line is tying in somewhere else. Your digging is what's going to affect us. And I know that because of this hillside, you're going to need a retaining wall. That's most definitely. I know it's also good for safety as well. But with this hillside and this slope and all this erosion, my concern is for you. You put this retaining wall in here, it's not going to last long as the city has not repaired any pipes. The hillside is going to continue sliding. If you look across from not where we're at, but if you look across from where the house sits from the nature reserve, all that hillside has washing down, and it's washing down toward us. You know, our backyards was much steeper than it is now. Our backyard, the flat part, has risen so much because we got the overland flooding and all the dirt that comes with it from the 08 zone, is what I'm saying. So, no, I don't think, maybe your water is going to impact us a little bit, maybe not, but the erosion period is throughout this whole entire backyard of Hewitt Crescent.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. I guess my point with the retaining wall here and the excavation up here, and I'm not sure which property you are along this backside, but
I'm at the top.
This one right here?
No, at the top, the opposite way.
Over here?
As soon as you turn all the way down the other way, you're at the no outlet. We're at the beginning of the street.
Okay, you're down.
Okay.
Okay.
We're right as soon as you turn on the street.
Okay. But I guess still, I mean, with this here, we're supporting the hillside here with a retaining wall to flatten the rear of the yard out, and it still has the same impact of catching the same amount of rain and whatnot that comes down the slope and then ultimately comes down this valley, which is better seen on the Cages map that kind of runs down through here. I mean, any rainfall and waterfall comes across in this direction, and then once it gets to this ditch, goes down in this general direction here to the bottom.
Okay. Yeah,
All
it's
right.
just the digging, the opening of the earth is going to impact.
And that's why everything's going to get revegetated and to assist with the erosion issues.
Okay. Can
you,
I ask you what type of dirt are you putting down? Or are you just putting natural dirt? What type of soil are you using to build the raise the area?
It's going to be a modular block retaining wall, so really it's not made out of dirt.
No, the dirt that you're using. The dirt that you're using to raise your property up higher, to level it off.
It's
So after
Good.
you build the wall, you're going to fill it in with dirt.
Or clay?
So what kind
It's
of,
actually going to be an aggregate backfill, so that way it's free draining. So any water that it's going to help with the water pass through from the top to the bottom, but it's not going to change any water that's falling down on any of the surfaces. So
Okay.
if Katie wanted to bring up the original drawings again, we could better explain what's getting excavated and what's getting replaced within the cross section of the wall.
Okay. I just want you out. That's a lot of work, a lot of,
Yeah. So,
just,
so
you know,
looking at what
I
she
don't
has,
want you out. Huh?
looking at what she has here, the square box area will either be sand, or some type of aggregate to replace what was there, and then the other hatch above the wall will be the soil that was already there. Will go back on top in that area. So really, and then any leftover dirt will get exported to not increase any weight on the slope or the hillside to create any additional issues.
Have you ever heard of CDF filler?
so I'm sorry, Ms. Hall. I
Sorry.
will come back to you. I'm going to have to move on to give some other
Okay,
folks
sorry.
some opportunity, and maybe they'll ask some of the same questions you have, but I'd like to hear from some other folks. So I'll go to Mary Hall and then to Terry Rath next. Mary Hall, what would you like to say?
Okay, I'd just like to know, so we're not rezoning the zip codes for 45207 versus 45208?
Nope.
Okay. And also, they're not filling the whole back area with dirt just around their retaining wall? Or could they put an aerial view back up? I think he owns about 10 acres or something. He's not filling all that with dirt, is he?
No.
Mr. Ritz, could you pull back up that the aerial that has the house in it?
Yep.
Or how? And
So this doesn't, let me see.
And Mr. Ritz, are you an engineer for this site?
Katie's the engineer and
Okay.
I'm the part of the construction department.
Okay. Okay, so say
So this is an overlay of the existing house.
correct, I understand that. But say for instance, I guess he owns like 10 acres back here. If he was to fill part of that in, you could see the addresses, like how many houses from the top of Hewitt Crescent would they fill in? Or they're not?
They're not.
Okay.
And we're not.
Okay.
Essentially, if I switch back over to this one, the retaining wall will basically go around
It's
this.
around the house, correct.
Okay, and really we're not, it's only raising the grade at the face of the wall, 6 feet maximum,
Okay.
to create a flatter space up here in the dirt area. And
Uh-huh.
everything down below the wall is going to stay as it is today.
Okay.
Nothing below the wall will change from a elevation standpoint or a runoff standpoint or a vegetation standpoint. It's going to be undisturbed. All this whole area here will be undisturbed.
Okay.
In this project.
Okay. Now, you also stated something about some kind of rocks that would be a draining system. And where would that drain into?
Basically the same water that falls here in a rain event, right? In the dirt area, it's going to want to run down slope, right?
Down to the backyards, right?
Down to the backyards. Basically the bottom of the ditch is somewhere right here, okay?
Right, okay, because I have...
The same water that falls in this, instead of it going over top of the wall, it'll seep into the ground and then come out through the wall, but it's the same water whether the retaining wall was there or not.
Okay, I'm just, because, I mean, my parents' house, we've never had flooding over 100 years, and now all of a sudden, but I mean, I guess and that's on the opposite side of the street also.
Yep, and we can't affect anything back over here because the property below the wall is actually elevationally below the houses over here. So there really is, we can't impact essentially upslope from us.
Okay, and my last question would be for Civil Solutions, being an engineering firm, will we be able to consult you guys to possibly give us some output on our backyards back there?
The answer to that would be yes, but it would have to be under other contracts and
Absolutely.
sure.
Okay.
Just to follow
outside
up,
outside of this hearing.
Absolutely.
Just to follow up on one of her questions, and just to make crystal clear, will this project and the retaining wall and the changes made to the backyard there, will it change the direction of rainfall water or runoff water in any way?
No.
It will not direct it in any direction other than downhill down into the gully there.
Which is the direction it will fall, whether the retaining wall goes in or not.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Terry Rath, are you still with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Would you like us to keep this map up before I take it down, or?
Yes, I would please leave it up.
Okay.
First of all, I am the immediate neighbor on the other side, excuse me, of the house. You can see in this picture, there's my swimming pool. I'm downhill from the new construction. There it is. If you move your mouse to the top right, that's my, right there. That's where I live. I'm there right now. So I lived here in August of 2016. I had 9 feet of water in my basement during that flood. And so my neighbors on Hewitt, I can relate to what you're going through. I will say that I think we've got it wrong on the flow of water runoff. It does enter the valley towards Hewitt, but it runs down the valley towards Duck Creek. So the water runoff Hewitt is actually uphill from this water runoff. Everything from Hewitt runs down that valley and then through the right side of my property. And I've looked at the plan. I know the flow of a water well here, and there's actually a 5-foot diameter main sewer line that runs down that valley on the right side of my house over Garden Place towards Duck Creek. So this retaining wall actually is going to help the situation, in my opinion, as far as water runoff. I shouldn't say that. I think it's going to be indifferent to water runoff. I also think having a pool there will not affect water runoff at all and actually help water runoff. But I do think the retaining wall with gravel behind it will slow and flow better than the earth that's there now. And I think this project will solidify the hill. I think it won't affect water runoff at all. And I think this is the right thing to do as far as solidifying that hill area in my backyard. So I'm looking forward to this project. I'm glad it's being done. And as far as my neighbors on Hewitt, repairing that main sewer line and your sewer lines is something that needs to be done. But this project really has no effect on that, in my opinion. That's MSD. It's combined water runoff and sewer, and they need to separate those eventually. But as far as this project and the house that's going to impact most, it's going to be mine. And I think the retaining wall will actually help with water runoff a little bit slower than it is now because of the aggregate behind the wall.
Okay.
My input.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rath, for your input and your time and your testimony here today.
You bet.
Okay, next, Lisa Randolph, and follow that with Terrence McCarthy. So, Lisa Randolph, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Would you like me to keep the map up, or
the other map he had prior to this
go
one?
back to the hunt map? There we go.
And it's kind of hard sometimes with the arrow because you move it around a lot. So it's
Fair enough.
I am the fourth house, I believe, right there.
The fifth one.
And I've been on that street for almost 30 years. We have a lot of residents on that street. Either they're still living there or they have had family there take over. So it's a community within itself. But there was an event that happened maybe about 2 or 3 months ago where I heard this loud booming sound and felt my house shake. I got nervous. I ran outside to see if something had happened. I checked with another couple of neighbors, but they weren't home at the time. I didn't tie it to the construction that's going on up there, but I have mixed feelings about this, to be perfectly honest. Um, as Miss Jean Hall was stating, as you come down Hewitt Crescent, we have some big issues there. That's on the front part. And then where I live at the end near the cul-de-sac, there's possibly some other issues. So we're kind of sandwiched in between two problems. I know that this project has nothing to do with the project Miss Jean was talking about. But I think when you start disturbing the land a lot, nobody can guarantee what is going to happen or how things are going to be, even though you might have done some testing, this, that, and the other. But my concern is partially been answered. But as the question has been answered was, I was asking, why was the wall or the additional feet really needed? And listening to what has been said, I think I got part of the answer. But then I was concerned about what kind of soil conditions. Hello?
We're still here.
Oh, okay. What kind of soil conditions, water management, sediment control during the construction and after the construction? I'd ask someone to help me try to think of what questions to ask, because notices were sent out. I got mine Thursday or Friday, and then here we are Wednesday. So even though the engineers and the builders, et cetera, had time to do research and get their position together, us residents, we have not had that time. And there may be some questions that, after this hearing, we may think of. So that's, something I wanted to put on the record, that we didn't have enough time to research it, get the information so we can review it and check with people who are experts. I'm almost sure I can say that none of the residents on that street are engineers or have any experience in home building as a career. So that kind of leads us at a disadvantage. But getting back to my question was, what kind of soil conditions, water management, sediment control during and after the construction, if that makes sense.
Sure. Do anyone like to address that?
The same controls for going to build a house for as far as sediment controls will be input to during the duration of the construction. So if that means silt fence in certain areas on the downslope side of things, that's all still in effect. And I don't know exactly, I haven't been out to the site to know where the location of that silt fence is or the erosion matting that's necessary to catch the silt, where that is exactly today in comparison to where the wall will be. But those measures would be in, because that's all part of the procedures as getting a permit with the city. That's all the requirements that the city requires. So it's a standard
May I
operating
ask
procedures.
I'm not, like I say, I don't know what do you mean by silt fence? SILT?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that term. So what does that mean?
So when it rains, on slopes, the particles of dirt have the ability to migrate down the slope. So if we put this fabric in along the slope, it catches the silt from going down into the very bottom of the reservoir or the ditch. And that's all part of standard operating procedures when you break ground and apply for any permits.
I'll jump in there too. It's basically like a filter essentially. So when you have the exposed dirt around the home site, it filters through any of those contaminants, so it doesn't clog up anything down on the street or anything similar to that. So it's basically a filtration system like that.
Okay. May I ask some more questions?
Sure.
I mentioned how I heard this loud booming sound that affected my house. My house shook. Can anyone address why that was or what was going on? This was about 2 months ago.
As far as loud boom, the first thought comes to my head, which is a dump truck dumping, gravel or some sort of material out. Those when it dumps out and the gate swings freely and it bangs very, very loud. It's unexpected, but it is a very loud noise. That's really what I could think of as far as big boom.
But it doesn't shake my house. My house shook. I felt the vibration was strong enough that it shook my house. I got out of my bed and went downstairs. I believe it was on a weekend, but it was like 2 months ago. So I understand about, having heavy trucks and stuff like that, but to shake the foundation or give the appearance that you feel this vibration of your house shaking, I just wanted to know what was going on 2 months ago. Anybody?
Best of my knowledge, I know nothing that would shake a house like that.
Okay.
I heard they were tearing down some trees, like on the back side of Crane Avenue. Not for sure, but some trees came down. If you go all the way up Hewitt Crescent, and where this property is, if you go straight toward the left, that's Crane Avenue. I'm unsure, but I heard some trees were coming down back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not verbatim, but that's just what I.
Okay. And then I had another question. If you could put that back up where you actually see the actual houses.
The aerial view.
Yes, they were identified. The houses were identified. I saw names by them. And if you can zoom in, I think you said that, yeah, right there. The LLC, that whole area. And that's owned by the new owner. Now, in relation to the homes, my house, and then I think there are 4 other houses before me, or 3. How far is that where our property line is? You bought, the owner bought everything in that area, including the little brook and everything like that?
Yeah, everything within the sort of highlighted area there, is within the subject property and belongs to the owner of the home.
The green.
Okay. So is there anything that can be done if, let's say, something happened where there's a lot of erosion? I know you say you're going to put up the retaining wall, but sometimes when hillside areas start slipping, it's like a domino effect. Even though it might be close up where it begins, but it can slowly but surely affect those types of properties. Now, is there anything set up where if homeowners can go after or find some type of resolution for any damage that may be done to their property? Is that too far ahead thinking, or, I mean, do you think about what ifs if this happens or that happened? Because I'm thinking that the new owner I have a fence behind my property, then there's a slope goes straight down. So I'm assuming that he owns all of that. So that was my question.
So unless someone from the applicant team would like to knows the answer to this or would like to offer anything, I believe that is a legal question
Okay.
that would need to be researched and answered by an attorney. But
Okay.
generally speaking, there is some recourse when one property owner causes or damages or leads to the damage of another property owner's property, generally speaking. But it's very much a case by case basis and can be a complex legal answer.
Okay. I was just curious about the effect that it may have. And I'm thinking of an in-ground pool, which means you have to dig down into the property. And I know you're going to have a retaining wall, but sometimes things do happen. And it could be a slow process of, like I said, the domino effect of water draining down. It may not happen in the first 6 months, but it may happen, 9 months down. And then you have this domino effect of one home, then another home in the backyard is affected by that.
Sure.
That was all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay.
May I speak next?
Thank you. Give me one second. Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Randolph, and for your perspective on this. I could not tell who was just speaking. Heather, yeah, sure. Why don't you go ahead, Mr. McCarthy? We'll have you next.
If you go back to your slope cross section AA map
Sorry, Mr. Ritz, could you pull that back up?
and you look at
Andy's
where
got
the
it.
sits in connection to the request of the wall, the pool is actually at their property line. So putting in 165 feet long wall at 6 feet with a below grade of a couple of feet, I don't see this actually being just an issue about the wall, because on the notice of public hearing, the card that was sent to my house, it actually says the applicant and or owner is requesting hillside overlay district permission to construct a level area in the rear yard that exceeds the maximum cut, fill, restrictions, and any other relief required under the zoning code. That information or that statement of any other relief required under the zoning code, it doesn't say exactly what you're asking for.
Yeah, and so that is a
if you look at where the pool sits, they're at their property line. So it looks like you're asking for a reinforcement wall. I understand it's being labeled as a play area, but this has more to do with than just the play area.
So I'll address the first part of that. I am in my office are the ones that generate those notification cards, and we sometimes through the course of a hearing will there will be an additional relief that is needed outside of what the initial statement was there for the cut and fill. In this case, there is no other relief that they're asking for other than the excavation and fill relief to have a total excavation and fill of 24 feet instead of 8 feet. That is the sum total of the zoning relief that they're requesting. Yes.
And I'm also concerned that we do not have any information in regards to the pipeline that's laying up under the properties. Because when you talk about an in-ground pool, there has to be connections. Right. And I'm concerned that we're not talking about that issue as well, because that would fall up under any other relief required under the zoning code. So I've got a lot of questions because we've never had an opportunity to look at all of these different maps that seem to have been approved for the civil solutions. And so I am asking for a moratorium until we can have a more educated and informed discussion of what this is actually including.
Ma'am, my name is Trey Sheldon. I'm going to speak in a little while, but I can help address at least some of that and tell you who you might talk to with as far as the Metropolitan Sewer District and or stormwater management. But the gentleman who spoke earlier, Mr. Rath, I believe he's correct in saying where the pipes lead northward toward Duck Creek. But I don't want to touch on that all right now, David. It's not my time to speak, but I did want to. I believe he's correct in his assessment of that.
So thanks, Trey. Ms. Britton, so your concern is that because you don't know where the pipes are underneath the property, that you can't have an informed discussion about the request?
That is correct, because your statement is all inclusive, and me giving a vote of yes and not knowing what else that incurs, I've got a problem with that, because you're showing me a map of future decisions. And future decisions seem to be covered already, but for right now, we're just talking about a retaining wall.
Yeah, so the zoning code, let me try and just back up just a little bit here. The zoning code within the hillside overlay districts, which this house falls in, right? Because it's on or near a hillside. The zoning code restricts certain things that can be done within those districts. One of those is digging into the hillside or excavating or filling in the hillside when the sum total of that excavation or that fill is beyond 8 feet. That's one of several different things in the hillside you cannot do, that the zoning code restricts. When you have a project that does not conform to those standards, you have to come through this process to get the relief just for that alone. The only thing that the zoning code restricts on this property in regards to this project is the excavation and fill. That is the sole thing that these applicants are asking for today. They are asking for an exception to the excavation and fill. So whether or not they put a swimming pool in their backyard is not within the purview of the zoning code, unless the construction of that swimming pool requires an excavation and fill in a hillside of greater than 8 feet. And so in this case, all the retaining wall is all that they are asking for, all that they are being permitted for. So whether or not the swimming pool goes in later is really not a question of the zoning code.
So can I say something on that on the screen that shows the houses, and you had it triangled off our backyard? How far is 10 acres toward us? Is that the highlighted green?
You got all that.
David, it's Trey again. The subject property is 4.77 acres. It's not 10. A lot of inquiries came in by phone about 10 acres or larger, and the subject property 4.77. The subject property, that triangle that Mr. Sturkey described earlier, is the sum total of the property, and it is 4.77 acres.
Okay, and also, so that's the whole green highlighted area that comes all the way across to us.
It runs across many of the backyards on Hewitt Crescent. Yeah.
Yes, it looked like it comes basically to the school, over to the school. Does it come all the way over to the school? See the triangle? So
yes, this is the subject property for the retaining wall, and this is there's disclaimers within how accurate it is, but relatively it's the size, shape, and depiction in the images.
Okay, so this little triangle is all the way the whole acres of his property
That is correct.
with the point which comes all the way over just about to the school.
That is correct.
Okay, so therefore anything outside this triangle on my left is all 07. And everything from this line to the right of my screen is all 08.
That I can't answer. I don't know.
So what I'm saying is this whole triangle is like a little triangle
Yeah,
just comes out the screen.
that is all in the Hyde Park neighborhood. That is all in the Hyde Park neighborhood. And you all, I assume that everything to the left on Hewitt Crescent is Evanston.
Hewitt Crescent, yes. So
Yes.
where are they tying in with their stormwater and drains? Where are they tying in?
It said they're going to Duck Creek.
No, that's not what he said. Duck Creek,
a few minutes.
or Mr. Terry, the resident Mr. Terry. I've seen your house. I've seen the big drain you have out in front of your yard. I was told by commissioners that when you all had your flood in 2016, this Mr. Terry, the resident that sits below 20 Garden Place, the SBU program helped you all out with repairing the water damages to your home. And you're exactly right. From my backyard, I can walk straight across to either house and come all the way across out on Duck Creek. So I understand Mr. Terry residents was helped out by the SBU program.
No, that's not quite accurate.
Okay.
The SBU denied the claim, and I sued MSD and won.
Okay, well, can you help us out?
I'm sorry, I disconnected here for a minute and it reconnected me. But yeah, if you have a SBU claim,
they denied me. They denied us.
Yeah, they deny a lot of people, but you know, there's a problem with the sewer. It had a discharge in August of 2016, and it backed up. Not only that, there's my neighbors that are 80 feet higher than I am. Theirs backed up too. There was a lot of pressure in that main line, and I had to build a retaining wall to prevent the water from coming back in my house. So if it happens again, you know, it won't happen again. But that there's a sewage problem that needs to be solved, and it's not solved yet.
Yes, and I understand 20 Garden Place putting a retaining wall there for their safety and yours, because that will prevent any runoff to your property.
Yeah, you know, I've studied this, and I don't think this is going to affect the water runoff in any way, especially Hewitt, because Hewitt's actually upstream. If anything, it'll affect my property, but I don't think that the water runoff in this case is a factor at all. I do think there's a problem with the sewage capacity, or I should say the stormwater sewage mixture capacity.
Yes.
But this project won't affect that. First of all, there was a house already there that was taken down when they built this new house. So it's not even an additional tap, but it does connect to the 5-foot diameter main line that runs through the valley by the school all the way to Duck Creek and through my yard. So that's, you know, this project here is not, in my opinion, is not going to affect water runoff in any way or add capacity to the mixed sewer right now. So,
so
I do.
So I need to step in here just for a minute. I think we need to get back to a little bit of order here because this really should be time for public comment and questions. We left off with Miss Britton. Ms. Britton, I want to go back to you. Did you have more comments, questions, or concerns that you would like to share? And if so, if you could unmute to do that.
I just feel that we haven't had enough time to study the drawings and to do more investigation for ourselves. So I'm not for approving this at this point.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you being here and for your perspective and your questions. Mr. McCarthy.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sturkey.
Yes.
I'm Geneva Miller. I've had my hand raised. I don't know how to get in. Am I on your list to speak?
You are, yes.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure. All right. Mr. McCarthy, if you could unmute, what would you like to tell us?
I think most of my thoughts and questions have already been touched on in previous comments and questions. I guess so. I'm new to the neighborhood and I'm at work most of the day, so I don't really see like the traffic of the construction equipment. But where is the traffic, or where is all the construction equipment going down? Are they coming down Hewitt Crescent, or are they coming in from a different direction?
Could someone verbally respond to that question?
I'll take that. They're coming down Garden Place, down the main drive, so not from Hewitt Place.
Okay. I just kind of concerning with the street and the one sewer line that we have and running all that equipment across it.
It's coming up the private drive over here.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for me.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. McCarthy. Okay, Ms. Geneva Miller, if you could activate your camera, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. McCarthy just asked one of my questions, so thank you for asking that. The second one, the first thing I want to note is that the gentleman, Richard, who is part of the construction team, it's amazing to me that when he had the map up that showed the triangle, and he was able to say that drainage and water that came from above Evanston and on the other side by the nature preserve, he showed how it all drains into the area that is right behind our homes, but MSD rejects that completely. It's amazing because all of that has nowhere else to go but there. So thank you for this being public. So at least now we have someone who has said it publicly. Maybe that's something we'll be able to use. On Katie's drawing, the one where it showed where the retaining wall is going to be dug, it says that there's going to be a total of 24 feet to this retaining wall. But then it says there's a maximum exposure of 6 feet and buried will be 16. That's only 22 feet. So there's another 2 feet somewhere because you're asking for a total of 24 feet. And the girders or the footers or whatever, I'm assuming are steel. And I'm concerned about the pounding of the earth for those footers to be going down into the earth to create that buried 16 or 18 feet to create a retaining wall. I'm concerned about that, about what that will do to the earth that is back behind our homes. It's already unstable. And I'm sure you all have done your engineering for the Garden Lane area or Garden Place area, but I'm concerned about what that's going to do to the properties that are already having some soil issues and some stability issues as it is. So for 16 or 18 feet of buried steel girders that are going to be put in place to create the returning wall is a challenge. And then the second thing is that on that map from Katie, it says also wall drain outlet every, I couldn't see whether it was 50 inches or 50 feet down slope. It says water drain outlet every 50 something down slope. Where is that going? And I understand that Richard is saying that it's still the same amount of water as if it's rain. Well, when someone or someone's are living there, that's going to increase the usage and the capacity for that area. And if drains are being put in so that they're down slope, where is it going? I know we keep saying it's not going to take on anything extra, but it's got to go somewhere. And it says on the map, down slope. So how can we address that? How can we be certain that the extra pressure of, first of all, putting the steel girders into the wall, into the earth, will not create more instability? And then these drains, how are they going to be tied in, and where will that go?
I can take this one. I'm going to share my screen again. So the 24 feet that has been discussed starts at this level, 730, which is the street level of the entrance of the house on Garden Place. The back of the house is at 718, which is this level here. So 730 to 718 is 12 feet of relief. The bottom of our wall is at 706. So the 730 to the 706 is the 24 feet that we've been discussing. The 24 feet doesn't start from the top of the wall. The wall is not 24 feet. So there will be no steel. There's not 16 feet of wall buried here. There's just 2 blocks buried and then the footing. So the wall has a maximum exposed height of 6 feet, which is this area right here. And there's 4 feet buried, which is this area here. So there will be no pounding of steel into the ground. There's no mass excavation during construction. It just sounds misleading. The 24 feet sounds misleading because it starts at the street level, which is the entrance of the house.
And so the drains, the wall drain outlet, every, I don't know, is that 50 inches or feet down slope?
Yeah, so the water, there's an outlet through the wall every 50 feet, and that is to help prevent water from staying back here. So if water gets trapped behind the wall, then this area becomes excessively heavy, and that weight can increase the chance of slope movement. So the reason that there's wall drains every 50 feet is to prevent any extra water weight behind the wall.
And so how far down does that go beyond the retaining wall?
So the drains will just be daylighted through the like at the surface. And so it will just go down the slope, as Richard said, the same way the same way the water is draining before this wall is in, is just the water's just draining down the slope.
And so it's still going behind our houses into the area that's already unstable and experiencing landslides, because we are experiencing sliding and erosion. So there is going to be extra usage, extra weight, extra consumption, if you will, that will continue to add to what we're already experiencing.
Which is slope movement.
Yes.
There won't be any additional, and it won't increase anything that we're talking about. This is only water that's under the ground that is looking to get out of the ground. So there's no when we're calling it a drain, it's just to let pour pressure out of the ground, not to. There's no water spigot that's going to the wall. There's no additional water being piped through this system other than water that's within the ground surface as it stands today.
I understand that. But it's also being directed even more specifically from this project. So I understand what you're saying. I certainly understand it's not a spigot that's being turned on to increase the water flow, but just still have some concerns with what this is going to do to the area behind us that is already unstable, already having erosion and slippage issues, and how it's going to continue to just erode for us on Hewitt Crescent. Thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for your questions and for being here today. Um, okay, I did have, I think that's everyone from the public, except we had a late arrival, Veda Udin. If you're with us and would like to provide any testimony, you could please turn on your camera and unmute. Okay, I'm going to move over to Trey Sheldon, zoning plans examiner, who's reviewed this project. Trey, you've heard a lot of testimony here today. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure, I hope I can help clarify things. So first of all, I'm going to describe a few things about this project just from a zoning standpoint, which you had me do initially at the very beginning. I'm going to kind of put a little more detail on that. And then I think it would be extremely useful if I share the screen and show a topographic map of the whole area, because I couldn't agree more with, I'm sorry, Mr. Rath had to go through what he did, and I'm sorry you all have had to endure what you have with water issues. But it certainly seems to me, and I will show this on a map.
Yeah, Trey, I think any demonstratives you could use is going to be helpful for everybody.
Yep, yeah, I plan to do that. So anyhow, first of all, again, to reinforce what has been said here, the reason for this total cumulative, the current project of this is not for a total of 24 feet. In fact, it's only about 8 feet or a little more than 8 feet to dig down to the bottom of the trench, maybe 12 at a max. Well, I think you'd have about 48 at the most at the bow or belly of this wall, from what I understand, and please correct me, anybody with Civil Solutions team. The maximum they are going down is about 4 feet at the bow or belly of this wall. And then from that trench upward, it's going a maximum of 6 feet. So collectively, that's 10 feet. So the rest of the whole entire 24 feet, the rest of the 24 feet, 14 feet of that is all the excavation and fill that has previously happened all the way up to that. But because this is an ongoing project, we look at it that way, the entire scope of the project. If the house had been built in 1920, and we were just looking at this addition for this wall for a pool and for so on, we'd be looking at relief of approximately 2 feet from a total of 10, if that makes sense. They're digging a trench, which at its max is 48 inches, about 4 feet, and then there's 6 feet of exposed wall. So that's just so that everybody understands. So that's the way the zoning code reads. It's cumulative excavation and fill over the site. But a lot of this has already occurred, and it's part of the foundation and basement of the house all the way up to the street. So hopefully that part's clear. Secondly, I wanted to point out that initially this project was going to have a more substantial scope. The drawing that Ms. Reichert and Mr. Ritz had showed it was about 17 feet further down, and I worked carefully with Ms. Reichert and several other members of her team there, and with with Mr. Fiegels, and even kind of brought in the homeowners on his end in a months-long process while Ms. Reichert was expecting her child, and we were able to get the scope of the project down so that it was pulled back about 17 feet back closer to the house. This is ballpark. And it also brought the wall height down to where I told them don't exceed 8 feet, and get this project more reasonable. So just to contain a pool and limited to containing a pool and a play area. And that was done. And that's part of the reason for my recommendation of approval, is because they significantly reduced the scope and, in my opinion, made this whole project more reasonable and safer. The wall then tapers from that maximum point, as Mr. Ritz and Mr. Reichert indicated. It then tapers back into the hill on the sides until it goes to zero. That's not to say there's no excavation going there, because they still have to get down below frost so this thing doesn't fail. They've still got to go between 30 and 48 inches down there. But as far as visibility from below, it tapers to zero as it comes toward the house. An additional point I requested is, because although they didn't destroy any vegetation really for this, because it was already denuded or not forest in that area, and hillside overlay, we really care about a landscape plan, and they have promised, and it's in the drawings there, and I will hold them to that on the permitting, that they will put native shrubs and sedges, which are tall native grasses down to hold the slope and to screen this wall on the bottom, on the downslope side. So that's, I think, number 3 of my points to make, is that they did promise to do that. That's on their drawings, and that is they will have to do. I'm telling all the concerned homeowners that is what they will have to do for their permitting. They will have to honor that, because it's in the, if this is approved by Mr. Sturkey, then they're going to have to do exactly what they put in their drawings. Then the last point, I think I'm gonna try to share the screen here if I can. Let me see. Is this something everybody can see as a topographic map right now?
No. No one can see anything. I don't think you're sharing.
Sharing now?
Yeah, but we can only see the top half of the screen.
Now we can see it.
Now we can see it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so just an overview. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. So just for an overview, for a sense of this, the subject property up here, up in this vicinity, is at about 720. We call it ASL. It's above sea level. So up along here, number 20 and number 19. Number 19 is a little bit higher. It's at 734 ASL. So its water tends to go past number 20 and down toward here. The properties along Hewitt Crescent, I'm just kind of doing a rough estimate, like up here by 3342, it's at 726, and in that area. So also with the yards for along Hewitt Crescent, any water from their backyards, at least if this topography map is correct, it's going to go southeast. It's going to go in this direction, which I'm putting toward this point here. Now, the way these lines of topography, like if you can see this line I'm showing you right here, those lines of topography these indicate upstream. That indicates upstream. It may be counterintuitive, but those lines follow where the water's stepping down in this north direction, right toward Mr. Rath's house. So if you see I'm going to zoom in at the bottom south end of Hewitt Crescent, and hopefully these lines will pop then, and you'll be able to see these lines of topography down here are, and I don't know why it's not showing them, but these are at much higher. This is high compared to where I'm pointing right here. So this goes from probably 730 to 730 or so to 720 to 710, 700. Finally, you're down into the 680s and 690s. And as you keep moving north along right here, I'm following north along what amounts to a little creek. It's going through there, through the 670s, until it eventually goes toward what I believe would be Mr. Rath's house, which is at about 668. And as you keep moving north, also, folks, I'm not permitted to show you the government overlay of all the infrastructure after 9/11. We don't have that on the public thing, but I can tell you just briefly that the sewer line, as Mr. Rath stated, and he apparently was in a lawsuit, so he ought to know. The line really appears to follow past his house and go on north in a northeasterly trend. The sewer, the 5-foot sewer line he was talking about, heads at least from here on northward to Duck Creek Road. So I can't show you that, but it's following the same downhill trend. I mean, they tend to put pipes in so that they don't go against the slope, but with the slope, if that makes sense. And so both the drainage and the sewer pipes are all going past Mr. Rath's house, underneath Garden Place. And now we're in 660s. Now we're in 658, 654. And you can see if I kept going, it's down to 650, and it just keeps going all the way up. Sorry to do this to your eyes, but I'm just explaining. It goes all the way up until it's somewhere here underneath Duck Creek Road. And probably it all goes on into Duck Creek, the water, the body, that stream, Duck Creek itself, I suspect. But I can't show every single detailed sewer map, but I hope this would be as helpful because it's showing that the water is actually gradually from all of the homes along Hewitt and along and Mr. Rath's, as well as the subject property, drain first on to the east, kind of southeast, and from there the water has nowhere to go but past Mr. Rath's house. It's boxed in. The other side of it toward Bettman Preserve, which you all are very aware of more than I am, past the school to the east of the school, that goes back up to Highland again. That's up 680, 690 or something, or I mean, it's up at a higher, into the 700s. So this very gradual sort of creek, if you will, whether it's piped or not, it's going past Mr. Rath's home, as he probably well knows and testified to, and then it heads north to Duck Creek. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions for me of this topography, I'm just trying to explain because there seemed to be some confusion about where this water's headed. David,
can I say, I've been at the site and the water, the way the house is built, Mr. Rath's house is below it.
Correct.
So are you saying that he's tied into water lines that's going down? Because if you come down the hill behind his house, that leads toward us, and it also leads or just above Mr. Terry's house. So some of his water is going to come toward us, and some may go toward Dana. But water always go in the south direction. Going toward Mr. Terry Ralph house, yeah, that's going south, but majority of his water is going to come this way. So if you coming from Mr. Terry house, straight across is flat land, and then it goes up. So the water is not all go his way, because the house is on the hill behind, and the water is going to come toward us. Some may go down toward Mr. Terry's, but I just can't see water runoff going toward Dana.
Well,
however, if he tied into somewhere that's going to make his tie in goes toward Dana, or his runoff go toward Dana, because his runoff looking at his backyard is going to come toward us.
I don't, I'm not a stormwater expert, but I spend, Mr. Cernke could probably tell you, I spend a great deal of my life looking at aerial photographs and maps for developments and so on. And I'm simply looking at these lines of topography and saying, Hewlett Crescent is higher up in the 720, 730, all the way down here as you loop down. This means higher land. And then all the way up by Bettman Preserve, 734, whatever. And then water all goes down here, but then it's got, because this is higher down here, like you can read the numbers.
It's really not higher. His house sits higher than us. He's up the hill. We all have the low ravine. We all have the deep ravine in our backyards. His house sits above on the hill. He is actually higher on earth than we are. So I'm just saying, maybe you ought to take a look at the site being there, because if you're in his yard and you look to your right, it's all downhill, down slope toward all the residents on Hewitt Crescent. If you look to his left, you're not going to have much runoff going down toward Mr. Terry house, and I'm quite sure none is going to go to Dana. That's why I'm asking, does he tie in underground with the pipe drain that goes toward Dana?
I believe so. Yes, it certainly looks that way. I can't show that diagram, but I can state that his house, like right now, looking at this, and it may be deceptive when you're standing out there, unless the topographic map is completely inaccurate. His low point near his house, he's about 668, 664. I'm reading these numbers that are right around 15 Garden Place. You're at 664, 666, something in that range. Whereas when you're over here at Hewitt Crescent, the house like at 3342 is at 726. So that's actually 60 feet higher than his house.
You're talking about Mr. Rath's house, not the subject property, correct?
Correct. The subject property is higher as well. It's on a ridge along with Hewitt Crescent, and everything has to go southeast. all this, anything from here has to be going down this hill. And then because down here is higher, I mean, this has to be a ridge right here that's higher. It's a dead end. Like water doesn't have any place else to go except back here toward past Mr. Rat's house, at the lower elevations, like at 660s and so on. And then, it's just how the lines work. If you were looking at this, if it was a bigger thing, like a whole river or something, these lines would follow the same way. It's just, they'd be deeper. And you follow these little lines that have the little points, like when I'm here in the upper right corner here, that line means that water, that downhill is going north. It's heading that way. And that's where the sewer pipe goes too, at least from past Mr. Rat's. And it's
That's not true. I'm sorry. That's not true. Because at this triangle, at the corner of this point, the water is going to come this way. It's going to come all the way down behind these houses. Like I said, you might get some runoff going toward Dana or toward Mr. Terry's house. That is the purpose of the retaining wall.
We'll have to speak to the purpose of the retaining wall. I thought that was probably to hold up the provide a place, safe play area, but I can only provide what I'm trying to show here on the topography map. It may be that some water just stays back here, but there's no way that it's washing up onto houses that are, I mean, unless this stuff's completely inaccurate, I don't see how it's going from down below here to a higher, how it's going from the 600s. It would have to go uphill into people's backyards. I mean,
Right.
Water doesn't go uphill.
I agree with Mr. Sheldon, and I was incorrect on which way it went down the ditch, but yes, it definitely goes down the hill from 20 Garden Place to the bottom of the valley and then towards Mr. Rath's location.
Not all of it. Not all of it.
Okay. Mr. Sheldon, did you have any other testimony you wanted to provide or anything else in regards to this application or your staff report?
Sure. The only other point I would make, if people are having problems, with their sewer and with stormwater, with MSD, they could, should contact MSD. They probably already have, but pressure that builds up in sewers that's excessive is a different matter than the natural flow of water here that we're talking about from the, in other words, the drains that would come out of the bottom of this wall are different. They aren't directed into the storm sewer system. So if you've got a stormwater pipes that are overwhelmed, and I guess Mr. Rath, I believe, spoke to it, that the pressure's so great, it'll come up bubbling up out of the storm sewers. That's the only way that water can go uphill, when it's under high pressure. But as far as the runoff from this wall, which is the subject of what we're talking about here,
high pressure up in here.
yeah, I mean, but that's sort of, as far as the runoff from this wall that's directed southeastward, the majority of that seems to me it's going to be headed past Mr. Rat's house. I don't see another way. The water that's draining naturally out of this wall, anyhow. I'm not talking about the pressure of the sewers. They seem like two separate matters, is what I'm getting at.
It is.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that every time someone points out that there's a potential problem with MSD, it gets retracted. And then we get back into this position again where we have to try to prove that we're having issues in our homes. And with this topographic map and how the sewer lines run and everything, yes, if everything were correct and working as it should, maybe then the water would flow the way it's supposed to. But there are multiple breaks and cracks in these pipes. And as a result, we are getting flooding and sewage and biohazards in the Evanston community. And now what we see is a socioeconomic breakdown for those who are able to afford to take MSD to court and sue them and win and get some assistance. Then the rest of us who are simply fighting for our homes are left to try to fight these systems that we, first of all, do not understand. You don't know what you don't know until you get to these kinds of hearings and see what's going on. And those who are able to wall themselves off, continue to wall themselves off, and we are left to try to fight for our properties. And I understand how the water should flow, but we know what we're experiencing in our homes, in our basements, in our front yards. We have MSD. It's an affront to say that we should call MSD. Of course, we have called MSD over and over and over again. Diane Christie has been out, engineers have been out. There are problems here. What we are saying is that we are all for progress. All for progress. People have the right to build anywhere they want. But as long as we are continuing to have these problems in our homes, we want a moratorium on anything else until we're certain that it will not affect our properties anymore. Because those who have the ability and the capacity to fight MSD, to take them to court and sue them and win, while that is happening for one or two addresses, the rest of this community is suffering economically, and this is an environmental justice issue. We cannot be certain that there will not be more damage to those homes that literally butt up to where this is. There cannot be any possible way to say there will not be any damage. And in the meantime, we sit as sitting ducks on Hewitt Crescent, on Crane, on Trimble, on Evanston Avenue, on other places in Evanston, and just wait for the literal landslide to happen. And then what? And so this is our concern. We want progress, but not at the expense of our homes and our community, which is being devastated by gentrification and socioeconomic upgrading that we cannot possibly fight.
Okay. I'm going to step back in here. Ms. Miller, I don't think that anyone, and I don't know that I can speak for everyone, but I don't think anyone really disagrees with practically everything you just said. And I can sense the very real frustration with a lot of folks over on Hewitt Crescent and the response from MSD in the city. And so I think that that was well said, and it was heard by everyone here. My concern is that not that there's ever a wrong forum for those statements because they're true, but that my ability to impact or to affect or change what has happened over there is limited by my role and by the zoning code and by the standards that I have to follow. And in this instance, it is a very narrow scope. I have to look at the zoning code, and in particular, Chapter 1433 and the Hillside Development Standards. And I have to look at those and apply them to this particular application to determine whether or not this project is consistent with those standards. Potential adverse impacts, of course, are things that I can consider and that I will consider as I'm reviewing this application. But my sense is that to get sort of the justice and restitution that I think may be deserved from the Hewitt Crescent residents, that you may need to take those statements to additional forums. And I was certain from the testimony that MSD has been made aware of the problems. I don't know to what extent our legislators, our council people, and our mayor have been contacted, but I would be happy to work with any of the folks on Hewitt Crescent to make sure that the folks that have the most direct control and direct ability to make these changes are notified and hear the message that we just heard. In this case, and as you'll see when I write my decision, I am constricted to what the standards are, the hillside development standards are when I make this decision. And it is very, very limited to just whether or not this retaining wall complies with the hillside standards, and whether or not the owner's substantial property right to change their property is in line with the development standards in the zoning code. And so I'm going to give, if the applicants would like an opportunity to make any closing remarks before we adjourn. If you would like to do that, I ask that you keep them brief and you make them now.
I just want to thank everybody for their time. I know this is a sensitive topic, and I appreciate your time today.
Sure. Thank you.
I appreciate everybody jumping on here. Thanks.
Sure. Ms. Randolph, we really do have to wrap this up. Is there something that you'd like to ask?
Well, actually, I just want to comment on what you stated. I understand
Sure.
your role as the hearing examiner, and I know you have to isolate on the 1433 zoning code, but also I'm thinking in your decision, you have to look at, you can't look at it, I don't think, in just an isolated area because of the fact that it affects the houses surrounding it. The houses are currently being, having issues with the soil and everything. So to not take that in consideration, I think is not doing it justice in zoning code as far as your application of the law. I think that you can't really isolate it because there are homes that are going to be affected. That's all I wanted to say that.
Sure. Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I didn't mean to suggest that I was not going to consider the impact to adjacent properties. I am required to consider that and review the evidence in the record to determine whether or not those adverse impacts should lead to a determination of not approving the project. So that is certainly something I'm going to consider. There is a preliminary geotechnical report that has been submitted as part of the application materials. There's
5 o'clock.
And so those are all things that I will look at in the record, and I will make that determination. But again, it's just my general sense that many of the issues and the problems that have frustrated the neighbors on Hewitt Crescent are unfortunately something that I cannot solve, and that my approval or denial of this project will not solve. And so that was just a broad statement. And again, I am sincere when I say it, because I've had this before. I've had frustrated residents come in, and this feels like the only forum where they can be heard and where they can make these statements. And so I completely understand this frustration. I've done this before, and I am sincere when I say that I am happy to assist any and all residents to put you in front of people that I believe can actually make some of the changes that you all need to have better sewer and water runoff and erosion.
I'll take you up on that.
Please
I'll
do.
contact you.
Several of you have emailed me already, but my email address is in the square on my screen. Our numbers can also be found on the Cincinnati website, the zoning department. So please do contact me. Having said all of that, I need to. There's a lot of information for me to take in. So I'm going to go and review all the information, all the testimony, consider all of that before I make a determination here. When I do make a determination, it will be a written decision that will either be approving or denying, or approving with conditions the applicant's application. I will email that as soon as I finish it. I put it into a PDF and I email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all will have a copy of that in your email, really just moments after it's complete. There is, if you if you disagree with the decision, there is an appellate process that is available to the applicant and to any other interested parties. If you have any questions about the process, any questions about my decision after it's issued, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Once this hearing closes, which will happen in a few minutes, I can no longer take any evidence or testimony. So I can't really, if you think of something you wanted to say but you didn't, I can't really consider that once the hearing is closed. But I can answer any questions about process or anything like that.
I have it. I have it.
A copy of your geotech report.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, those are all in the application materials, which
Okay.
I'm happy to share with anyone. Again, if you would like to email me, that's the quickest way to get that to you.
I'll email you. It's Heather. I would like a copy of it.
Sure, no problem.
We have a geotechnical engineer report. Would you like to see that, or is it too late to submit?
Is it?
We hired a geotechnical engineer to come out here and survey the land and tell us what's going on. That's how we found out that the pipes are busted and all this erosion is coming from.
If you'd like to submit it, if you'd like to submit that report, I'm
Yeah, I
happy
can
to include it
submit
in
it.
the record.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
We'll email that to you. It might not come from me, but I'll make sure you have it.
Sure.
Okay.
Ms. Randolph?
Yes, it's dealing with the appeal process. Once you submit the decision online, how much time does either party have to appeal? I just don't want it to get out and then all of a sudden 2 days later, we have the appeal time. You know, we have to appear before another jurisdiction or hearing. So I just want to get an idea of what that's going to be like.
Yeah, it'll be 30 days.
Okay, 30 days.
30 days from the time the decision is issued is the amount of time you have to file a notice of appeal, which is just sort of some preliminary filings. And then after that, you'll have some additional time to build out the appeal if you would like. And that's all noted on the decision itself, including the timeline.
And if there is an appeal filed, will all the parties who spoke here receive notification of the decision being appealed, or do we have to check back with you to see if there was appeal filed? How does that work? Because I feel they have to file it with the court, perhaps.
Yeah.
So how does
typically anyone who's participated in the hearing itself is notified of the appeal.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a phone number, office number we can contact you for our future planning with our everything? Okay,
Sure.
I've got your
I'll
email.
give it to you now. Yeah, my name's David Sturkey. David spelled the usual way. Sturkey is turkey with an S in front. My number is 513-352-3353. And anyone in the hearing today, again, is welcome to contact me via phone or email, or even come into the office if you'd like.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much. Thank you for inviting us.
Sure. And thank you all for your time and your testimony.
Good luck with the plan in 20.
Thank you. Okay. Unless there are any other questions about anything that's happened today, we're going to leave it at that. Thank you all again for your being here and your time, your testimony. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. We are adjourned. Goodbye, everyone.